multifaceted. You know, there's so much that plays into that. There's so much introspection, so much learning that you have to do about yourself, reflection on, you know, where you've come from and the things that you have been through and the things that made you develop the schemas that you have. And, you know, it's such, you know, broad work. But as you say, you know, it's underpinned by a lot of these same behaviours, and it's being displayed the same way in our bodies, you know, and the symptoms and the way it, you know, is evidencing itself or making itself known.
Absolutely.
So you said about trauma there, and trauma, you know, on other podcasts and things like that, I'm always very open speaking about my own mental health. You know, I live with anxiety now, or having a diagnosis of anxiety for 6 years and a diagnosis of depression for 11 years. And I feel as if, you know, yes, we are learning more about trauma, and it's great to see, you know, that we are becoming more informed as practitioners with relation to trauma. But obviously, you know, this is your area of specialism. You know, you are a trauma expert. You're a specialist in this field. So obviously, you know, at the moment, there's so much trauma being experienced on such a broad, national, global scale. And obviously, you know, we're going to have the fallout of this, what's going to come afterwards. I'd just be really interested to know if you've got any thoughts, one, on how we can actually start to heal as individuals, but also as communities and as a nation. And also if there's any top tips on coping with grief as well, because I know that that's a big thing at the moment. Of course, you know, unfortunately, a lot of people have lost loved ones, lost friends, and we don't really know what to do, you know, because people aren't being able to grieve in the ways that they have done. So I know that's a lot of questions I've just thrown at you there, so feel free to pick and choose. And
I think, first of all, I'd like to start by saying one of the things that I feel would really benefit us as a global community is to stop fear-based reporting. Yes, there's a global pandemic out there. Yes, there's people dying, but there's millions and millions and millions of people who have contracted coronavirus and are alive to tell the tale. There's people who have tested positive who have absolutely no symptoms. There's not a lot of that being reported. There's not a lot of the statistics in terms of people who actually get this, who then go on to pass away. And, you know, I've been personally impacted by COVID, so I'm not saying that by any manner of means I'm not downplaying any of it. But what I'm saying is we have got into a way of only reporting the things that make you go, well, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. And if this happens, oh, it's a big scary world out there. And by all means, it is a big scary world out there. But you can navigate yourself through it without constantly being reminded of that. I think there's enough things out there for us to be fearful of that we're aware of. I think one of my biggest concerns going forward, I mean, my referrals have doubled in the last, you know, few months. I think this recent lockdown has been the one that's almost been like the straw that's broke the camel's back. And taking into account my personal belief, my personal understanding of trauma is that when you have an event and you give that event meaning, and that meaning comes from how you compare and contrast the environment you're living in right now to previous environments and events that you have had to create a picture of your reality. Now, we're all met by between 2 million and 6 billion pieces of information every second of every day. We only pay attention to approximately 134 bits of that information. So what's the chances of anybody having the same sense of reality as anyone else? So when you give something meaning based on how you're responding to the situation in your own head, which could be, you know, something happens and you become anxious and stressed and someone else is like, what's wrong with you? Why are you being like that? It's not their reality. They're not perceiving things. They're not giving the same meaning to the words, to the tone of voice, to the body language, to the energy that's in that environment there and then. If there is an element in that you feel vulnerable. And by vulnerable, I mean that you hold your breath and go, and then the brain goes, oh my goodness, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And there's an element of inescapability, or the perceived sense of being trapped. So you have the four things. You have the event, you have the meaning, you have the landscape of the brain being vulnerable, and the perceived sense of inescapability. What happens is the brain starts to work really, really quickly, and it starts to try and process all of this information, because the brain, the unconscious mind is saying, we need to know what is in this environment right here and right now, because we're at threat. And if we're ever in an environment like this again, we need to make sure that we alert the body that we're in danger. So it'll take a picture, it'll go and it'll take a picture of everything you see, hear, feel, smell and taste, and it'll encode it. And there's a protein in the brain at that point in time, and that protein will stick that in a little receptor that'll come out from the fight or flight, and it'll encode it all in there, almost like a little memory box. And there's wee meerkats in that memory box who are like, we'll keep it safe for you, we'll keep watching, and if anybody looks at you like that again, or speaks to you in that tone of voice, we will alert you and let you know. So, for example, you're in a car crash, and again, the car crash is the event. The meaning is, oh my goodness, I could potentially die here, I am at risk. The landscape of the brain is vulnerable, because it's kind of going, anything that involves you holding your breath or tensing yourself tight is generally a vulnerable state of mind. At that point, again, the brain will go, take a picture, and it'll take a picture of the blue car in front, the Bob Marley playing on the radio, the fresh car pine smell, the lady with the yellow jacket. And so the wee meerkats are like, right, I'll keep an eye out for the pine smell, I'll keep an eye out for Bob Marley, So they sit there and they're on the back foot, and they're kind of going, right, just keep watching. And you know, you recover from the car crash, you're walking through the shopping centre, and you have your 8-year-old nephew with you, and you're taking him for ice cream, and you're standing in front of Thornton's, and you're like, which ice cream would you like? And just before he answers, Bob Marley comes on the tannoy in the shopping centre, and the wee meerkat goes, oh, here's this, oh, you're in danger. But the conscious mind is going, oh, I can feel I feel a bit, my heart's going, what must it be? It's the shopping centre. It's quite warm, isn't it? Yeah, it's the shopping centre, because it's really warm and there's lots of people about. Right, just buy the ice cream and get out, because it's not aware that that link to that sound. So what then happens is warm places, busy places, shopping centres create a new meerkat, and the new meerkat's like, I'll keep an eye out for that. And the next thing you know, you have all of these receptors with all of these like meerkat type receptors and triggers in them, and consciously we try and solve our problems, or our perceived problems. If we could consciously solve our problems, we wouldn't have any problems, because we're pretty intelligent. We're an intelligent species. We're the top of the food chain. We've totally taken over this world, and for some reason, somewhere, man decided, no, actually the world belongs to us. Well, do you know what? Corona's just reminded us all, no, it doesn't. It belongs to Mother Nature. And when she decides she's had enough, then there'll be things that'll be sent to just keep you in your place. And I just think that, you know, the more we can kind of create an understanding, because for me, you know, like I do a lot of training around mental health, and I think knowledge creates awareness, and people can be aware, and people can kind of know what's happening, but understanding creates insight. And when you have an understanding of what it's like to be in a situation where everybody else thinks it's fine, but your head is doing an absolute 360 backflip, and you can't concentrate and think properly, and someone's coming over to talk to you, and you're looking at them going, no, don't talk to me, I don't know what to say to you, I don't know. And it is an absolute minefield. And the more we can just teach people to just stop, just to take a breath, just to breathe in, breathe back out, and just gather themselves. And you know, at least 2 or 3 times a day, I will stop and I'll say, Viv, how are you? How are you really? And you know, I usually always, you know, almost do like an internal scan, And the answer is usually always, you need a pee. Because I'm really bad. I'm really bad for working. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to pee my pants. Because I get so engrossed in what I'm doing. But I think it's important that we all just stop. We all just remember to be kind to ourselves, to really just ask ourselves that question, how am I? And sometimes the question might even be, who am I? Because we do things to fit in. We do things that we think other people want from us, without actually ever kind of going, well, do you know, if I fit in there, then I'll create this person and I'll fit in there. And then, oh, they want this from me. Okay, I'll fit in there. And before long, you're kind of sitting going, who am I? Actually, I don't belong anywhere, because I've spent so much of my time trying to fit in, and I don't fit in. I just feel like I don't fit in anywhere. So I think to get people to have a sense of belonging is much more beneficial than fitting in. And I think that's about having a relationship with yourself. And I don't think we encourage, especially young people, to do that. And again, it's brilliant to see a change in the tide, because now there's a lot more things going into schools. There's a lot more mindfulness. There's a lot more, you know, even in terms of things like no zones, you know, where it's like, don't touch my no zone and things like that. And I just think it's just a lovely way that to get children. I mean, I do havening, and my son, like, if I say, oh, I had a really busy day, he'll say, do you want havened, Mum? And you know, so he'll rub my arms and rub my hands. And I was actually doing I was talking to a girl this morning who was doing a case study on Hydroease for the business park that we're in. And
brilliant.
She was asking about career highlights, and I was telling her about career highlights. I said, but the best career highlight was overhearing my son saying to his friend that his mum has a really important job because she makes people feel better and smile again. And I was just like, that's going to
set me off. I'm like, been in lockdown too long. I'm like hyper emotional. So. Oh, that is amazing though, and that's so great. You know that he is doing that at such a young age, and as you say about, you know, finding a sense of belonging, finding our identity, who we actually are, our core values, what we believe in. That has to start when we're younger, and encouraging that introspection and encouraging that connection. You know, because
that's it.
We live, as you say, in such a fast-paced world, and you know we're losing a bit of that human connection, I think.
Absolutely. And the thing is, that's why we became the top of the food chain. That's why we became the superior species, was because we were able to divide and conquer. We were able to, you know, like, there's a real tribalism within humans, and when we come together and connect, that's when it allows us to really feel that sense of belonging. It allows us to really feel part of something that is bigger than us. And through what's happening in COVID, we're being told, no, you can't, you know, you have to stay away from each other. So I think the real pandemic is mental health, and I think it has been for a long time globally. I think it has been for a long time. And you just have to look at the budgets that are allocated to mental health, and in every country, they're nowhere near the budgets that are allocated to physical health. And we take the same model that we use for physical health that we use for mental health. You know, if someone goes to the doctor and they have a broken bone and it gets fixed and they have a healing period, and it's kind of like they're in this process and that's it. So it's all about, you know, fixing and you know, questions like, are you better yet? Are you healed? Is that it? But with mental health, it's about adjusting, it's about learning, it's about acceptance, it's about, you know, taking every single person as that, a single person, one person, and for the medical model to hand it over to them and say, you tell me, you're the expert in you, these are the skills and the tools that I have that I can help you with, which ones would you like to use? Rather as, right, you have this symptom, that symptom, this symptom, yep, you tick that box, you now have this label comes with this medication, and then you've got people 20 years later that are coming to the likes of me and they're saying about their medications, and I'm saying, does it help? Nah. How long have you been on it? 20 years. 20 years, and it's not helping. So I think there's, but in saying that, also, like, I sound like a real negative Nelly, But I think it's a really exciting time because there is so many medical practitioners now who are listening to the likes of Gabor Mate